Welcome back to the Battery Podcast. I'm Aidan,
And I'm Jack.
and we are here to recap the Cannons coming up just short against the Maryland Whipsnakes. Really a tale of two halves. Colin Kurtz continues to dominate after the 24-minute mark, but the Cannons can't rally from a 10-goal deficit. They fall to the Whips 16-14. Whips secure playoff spot, so now we know officially three. I mean, I feel pretty confident about who's going to wind up making the playoffs, but officially now we've got the Cannons, the Atlas, and now the Whipsnakes. So three
The
teams in the
Water
East.
Dogs are
Oh yes,
officially eliminated. So, interestingly, even though it's only the top seed in each conference that really matters because it just goes overall seeding after that, all four East teams
hmm
know their playoff fate, or at least I guess they don't know who's going to get the bye, but all four teams, either in versus out, have been decided, and the West
yeah,
is still wide open, which
yeah.
is kind of
Especially, I
wild.
mean, this is not
Wild
an all
West.
league podcast, but it's really wide open after the results of this weekend. I mean, the Woods could conceivably win their last two games and make the playoffs and kick out either the Outlaws or really any of the other team. Chaos probably the prime contender for that. Um, But yeah, the East is decided, not as far as seeding, but definitely as far as who's going and who's not. Um, Man, this is a different Whipsnakes team than we played in week two.
Yeah, yeah. Um, Offense was clicking, at least in the first half.
Yeah.
Cannon's offense was certainly not clicking
And they
in
just
the
didn't have the
first half.
ball.
It, Nardella won a lot of faceoffs, but I forget at what point it was. It was in the second quarter that they showed the shooting numbers, and the
Yeah.
Cannons were 3 for 13, and the Whipsnakes were 12 for 25.
Yeah.
So, uh, yeah, they're basically doubling us up in shots, and they're making half of their shots, whereas we're making, I don't even want to do the math on
27%.
that. Three out of
Yeah.
13, a quarter. That's a major
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, I think this it mirrored the Atlas game in week one and it mirrored the Atlas in a lot of ways. Um, in that like I'm sure Colin Kurtz would be the first to tell you he didn't have a great first half, but he did get a little hung out to dry. Like I'm inclined to blame it a little bit on the weather just because it was very weird. I mean, I assume if you're listening to this, you're somewhat aware. The Cannons were supposed to play the first game today at 3 o'clock, and then the second game was going to be at 5:30. That second game got moved to 12:30 because of fears of weather. That weather happened at about 3 o'clock, so the Cannons wound up starting the game at about 4. Um, like that's just got to be tough for an athlete to not know when you're starting. Um,
Little timeout. I
yeah.
just have a quick nugget on that. Is the PLL scripted? Question mark. Because as you mentioned, those the game times are, well, just the other game got shifted around, right? And so me being the big Boston fan I am, I bet $6.17 on the Cannons to win every single week. This morning, I'm placing my bet, and I see that the Archers Chaos game, so DraftKings, not sponsored, but I use DraftKings, Boston company, whatever. Um, they always have the very exact time that the game starts, not like the broadcast time. So like the PLL's telling you that Archers Chaos is at 12:30, but DraftKings is telling you that the game's at 12:35.
Yeah.
Pretty simple. DraftKings was telling me that the Cannons game was at 4:05, and I saw that this morning, and I said that keep this was like 7 a.m. I'm like, I'm pretty sure the game's at 3. They didn't change the game, and I look at the PLL app, I look at ESPN. it's 3 p.m. I never went back into DraftKings to see if it got changed later in the day, but I was like, hmm, that's a little weird that they're telling me the game's at 4 and not 3. And then lo and behold, rain delay,
Yeah.
lightning delay, whatever it is, and it's supposed to come back at 3:45. Oh, nope, we got another delay. And then if you look at the PLL's Twitter, the official statement said that the game started at 4:05 p.m. What's
Yeah.
going on there?
I mean, listen, I think does especially when Paul Rabel was playing, did he have an undue influence? Probably. Like did Rob Pennell go to the Atlas because um that was how it was drafted, or because Paul Rabel was like, hey, he told the GM of the team who was picking in front of him, like, I want to play with my friend. That is one conversation. I don't think the Rabels can control the weather though.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't, there's no conceivable reason how or even
Yeah.
why a 4 o'clock game is better than a 3 o'clock game, but just found that
Yeah.
really odd.
No, that is it's definitely interesting, and I mean the whole sports book, legalized sports betting conversation is definitely a topic for probably an off-season topic.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
we definitely want to bring Hutton Jackson on for that because he is, I mean, if you're going to make money betting on lacrosse, he is definitely the guy to talk to. Uh,
true.
yeah, I would love to have
But
that conversation, but it's definitely not one.
that we
Uh,
need to have now. Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry
Um,
to derail. You were telling us about Colin Kirst and the weather.
oh yeah. I mean, like it's just got to be so tough to not know when you're starting for an athlete, and especially because I know I believe I heard them say the Cannons got their practice in yesterday. Um, but it's just got to be weird. It's like you get riled up, you probably go out onto the field, but then you get called back for weather, and you're just kind of chilling in the locker room. You don't know when you're going back out. Like I don't necessarily blame the Cannons offense for being a little slower. Or sorry, the Cannons defense for being a little slower. Especially because the Whips did have that game the day before, um, to
Right.
get in sync to line their pieces up. But I mean, Brian Holman and everyone on that defense, I'm sure would be the first one to tell you they didn't play up to their standard in that first half. I mean,
No.
you give up 24 goals that, or sorry, not 24. You give up 14 goals in the first half. My mistake. Um, that's unacceptable, especially given the score of the first time these teams played was 13-9,
Yeah.
in favor of the Cannons. Um, yeah, it just not obviously not the Cannons' best in that first half. Second half, obviously they turned it around. Like I said, Colin Kirst, best second half goalie in the league, gave up 2 goals. Both goalies, interestingly, finished below 50% on the day. I think that Kirst especially got victimized by that first half, being a little hung out to dry. But whether it was fatigue catching up with the Whipsnakes or just the Cannons saying, no, we are not going to allow this anymore. I mean, they close it from at one point it was 14-4, down by 10. Cannons score two very quickly at the end of the first half. Get it to within two, I think twice. I think it was 13-15, and then, the final 14-16. It was, they were a deflected 2-point shot away because I know Campbell had one very late, that Squires got his stick on from potentially a tie game, or at the very least, very exciting final face-off with Joe Nardella and Zach Tucci.
Yeah. I really thought you could hear it on the broadcast too. I think
Oh yeah.
Ryan Boyle shouting, "Look out for Campbell!" And I really like the to your point of just how much better that they played in the second half. They really gave me hope and excitement. And I'm honestly, I was telling you this before we started recording that I'm not feeling that bad about this loss just because of how well they played in the second half that I don't, like you said with the weather, like I don't think that going down 14-4 in the first half, technically it was 14-6 at halftime because they had those two sweet goals in the last 10 seconds, but going down 14-4 isn't going to happen.
No,
Uh, is not going to be a common occurrence for
absolutely
this
not.
team. Knock on wood, I suppose. But like the Cannons are a good team. They've been a good team. They've showed that they will fight and are resilient all year long. And so the fact, like, even when they started, the Whips started pulling away a little bit, I was like, that Cannons have gone down in the first half before, it is what it is. And then it stretched a little bit, and you're like, okay, like this feels like it might be a little insurmountable, little too much to overcome. And it was too much
Yeah.
to overcome in the end. But damn, they made it close and they made it fun. I was enjoying watching that second half. I was getting hyped. And when Ryan Boyle had that voice crack and Matt Campbell came rushing in my head, I saw it. I was like, this
Yeah.
is going in. They're tying it, and we're gonna win it in overtime. Like that's just what's gonna happen. It's not what happened, which is a bummer. That would have that would have been fun. I guess the silver lining in it though, other than the fact that the Cannons just showed yet again how tough and resilient they are and that they will not give up, they will not quit, is that Atlas remain number one in the
Yeah.
East thanks to score differential. And that means that the Cannons are one step closer to not getting a bye, which we have talked ad nauseum about how
Yep.
we don't want them to get that bye.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I was struggling a little bit to figure out, I do those fan reaction videos that I think I'll be recording right after this. And that was what I figured I'd have for the Cannons. Like, well, at least we're almost definitely going to see them in Foxborough now because the Owls play the Water Dogs again, and I I can't imagine anyone losing to the Water Dogs at this point. Um,
mhm.
so I I definitely feel a lot better about seeing the Cannons there, and I it happened early on in the game. It's ultimately not a huge deal, but another pretty important milestone is the Cannons broke the PLL single season record for 2-pointers.
That's right.
Actually, their first goal of the game, Chris Lanian. Also, like mirroring that Atlas game in another fun way, or just kind of coincidental way, is the Cannons' first goal in that game, also a 2-pointer. I think that tied the game though, 2-2. And it was Campbell. Here we had Chris Lanian stepping in from pretty deep. Like I'd say it was probably at least like 18 yards. He was
Mm.
well behind the line. But as we know, he can fire it over 100 for sure. And so your 2024 Boston Cannons officially the PLL single season record holder for most 2-pointers in the season.
16.
Yep, 16. Got one more chance to add to it in Utah against the Chaos. So,
Correct.
Blaze Reardon, not the type of goalie you want to set a scoring record against, but uh they've already set the record, they can just extend it now. Um, but
Blaze Reardon had himself a day too. I
yeah,
know this is a Cans podcast, but I don't know. The Cans game isn't super fun to talk about today, but Blaze 1,000 career saves and
thousand,
coast
yeah,
to coast
yeah. I
had
think
himself a day.
everyone, especially everyone who is a University of Albany fan, who's a college lacrosse fan in general, like you've probably seen that clip of him from 2015 splitting a double team against Cornell. We've been waiting for a goalie goal for a long, long time. I think the last one, I know Adam Ghittelman always loved to run when he was in cage, but I think the last one we actually saw in the professional level was in the MLL. I think it was like 2016 or 17. Um, Ghittelman had like his
Was
head
it that
down.
long ago?
Yeah, it was Outlaws Blaze. Ghittelman had his head down, it was like right at the end of the half. He was having a drink of water, and Kelly just chucked it right as the clock was expiring.
I, that was the last time we had one.
I'm pretty sure because I don't believe there had been one in the PLL except for the All-Star games, which don't count, obviously.
Now,
So
wow.
yeah. So
So that
congrats to
that
Blaze.
feels like so long ago,
Yeah.
which I guess it was.
It was a like in lacrosse years, it was a long time ago. Um, yeah, this was I mean, for our case that Colin Kerr should be goalie of the year, both the Chaos game and the Cannons game, not a huge argument in favor of that, unfortunately. Um, Blaze, especially scoring, um,
Yeah.
and making a lot of saves. Well injured. I mean, he took a couple shots to the knee.
He
Um,
missed a couple games early though, so I feel like that helps his numbers, but I guess
yeah,
also
I think
hurts them.
he missed like a game and a half. I think
Mm,
he only missed
mm,
one full game. And when Count came in, I was hoping, oh, if he's injured, like I'm never hoping for an injury, but I'm like, oh, if he's injured, he can't play this game, especially if he can't play next game. You know, that's an argument. You can't win goalie of the year if you miss like 3 games. I mean,
hmm
10 game season. But he was only out for about, I don't know, 2, 3 minutes. Uh,
Yeah. Well, as long as Kirst gets a finalist nominee then.
yeah, I mean, I think he should definitely be a finalist. I'd say it would be him, Dobson, and Reardon
Yeah.
have far and away been the best three. Um,
hmm
but our streak of we can no longer just count the Atlas game as an outlier because he's now given up what 16 in this game, as long as the 19 there. So
And
that
he gave up
streak
another
of
two.
yeah, and he gave another two. So he's gone from one 2-pointer to 4 2-pointers on the year in 2 games. Um,
hmm
Set 19 and 16, and then you have the 9, 10, 11s he's given up in between. But
Yeah.
again, I think with and he was dialed in the second half. Like he made some amazing saves, and just it was a total shift when the Whips took a shot in the second half. He felt like he was going to save it, versus when they took a shot in the first half, he felt like it was going to go in, and it probably did go in. Uh,
hmm
and a lot of that's on the defense because Zed Williams was like right open on the crease and just got to take all the fakes he wanted, and every offensive player in the PLL is going to score that 10 times out of 10.
Yeah.
Um, but it just doesn't look as good. And
What about on the offensive end?
yeah,
I think Maryland did a really good job of shutting down Marcus and Ash.
yeah,
Marcus,
no points,
especially, yeah, no points for Marcus.
which was shocking.
That, yeah.
Because yeah, I viewed Marcus as being the best lock for the Cannons, not scoring necessarily as in goals, but I mean that's most of what he does, just getting
hmm
points.
Right.
And I also think, I mean, Holman was asked at halftime about Asher Nolting, who definitely looked to be dealing with some kind of leg injury. He said he was fine.
Yeah.
He's not fine. Uh, I don't know, as an ankle,
I mean,
hamstring, whatever. Like, I'm
he
not
seemed
speculating.
fine in the second half.
He seemed better for sure. And maybe, I don't know if there's that magic thing they give to the NFL players in the blue tent. But he definitely had a lot more giddy up in the second half.
hmm
But not at full strength. Finished with, I know no Cannon had more than three. I believe he was 3 points, that is, not 3 goals. I believe he was up there, or he was one of those people tied with three. Let me just pull up the stats. But uh Holman to go pointless uh is a
Is
oh yeah, Holting 1 goal to us, Nolting 1 goal to
Knowlton.
us.
Mm.
Um
Yeah.
Holman to go pointless rather is shocking because he's such a I mean, so automatic. He's so high up on he's like third, I think, all time in goals. He is like, he does not need a lot of time or space to get his shot off. He wins the accuracy shooting contest every year. Um, I mean, I gotta give credit to the Whips defense and obviously to Krebs for shutting him down. But I can't think of many good opportunities he had. I know he had like a a 2-pointer kind of coming off a pick that wasn't great. Like for him especially, you really got to step into it, and he just didn't nail the high bouncer the way that
Mhm.
he does when it goes in. Um, and then that moment at the end of the game, we saw it against the Woods, and we saw it now against the Whips. That Holman, when you need a goal late, Holman handling up top, he just doesn't have the dodging capabilities or the protecting the ball, getting his hands free abilities of Nolting, or I mean, I'll say Pat Cav fighting through a bunch of traffic. Um,
Yeah, how did you feel about Pat's game?
I mean, to switch here, I thought this was probably Pat's best game. I mean, I think as far as points, it was his best game. He was one of those cannons with three. I think he had 2 goals, 1 assist. Um, Definitely encouraged about that. I mean, I don't know if what Will Mandy would have brought differently. But excuse me.
That fire. He
Yeah,
wants to beat the Whipsnakes.
yeah. I mean, Kavanaugh we know is everyone in the Kavanaugh family is super competitive and wants to win every time they're out there. But Holman definitely, or Manny, has special vengeance toward beating the Whips. Um, but
Hopefully we
I
see
mean,
him in Utah.
yeah. But I was very encouraged by Pat today. Um,
Hmm.
he felt like he just coalesced with, like, he hasn't really had a shot to really like gel. He's been injured. It's been a little sub of him versus his brother versus that one game with Robinson. I think like
Right.
his rookie year at this point is kind of a wash. And that, I mean, it's such a bummer because he was in conversation to go one overall. And really interesting to see how the Outlaws would have looked if they'd taken him instead, but I don't think that was ever really in the cards. Um, but man, if O'Neill had fallen to six. Um, no, I think
Oh,
it was an encouraging game from him, particularly how he fit in. Just to give him more experience with the guys. I mean, I would assume they'll be rolling back pretty much the same roster next year. I don't know why you wouldn't. Um, yeah, it was I think a solid game from Cav to show, like I think he has obviously a lot of similarities with his brother. Um, to see where he's gonna fit in this offense. Hopefully his legs are a little younger. Hopefully he can do a little more, especially with not coming off a full college season where he was probably also carrying some injuries. To see next year
hmm.
if he's gonna be, hopefully his legs have a little more juice in them. He'll have a full training camp. He'll have a full off season of all these meetings with the coaches and with the other offensive players. Um,
Yep.
yeah, I mean, I definitely think the sky's the limit with him. But and he'll definitely be a good contributor, probably for 2, 3, 4 points a game for the rest of this year, however many more games the Cannons have left. But I think as far as seeing his full potential, we'll probably have to wait till next year.
Agreed. Yeah.
Um,
Anything
yeah.
else on the game?
Um, I don't think about this game in particular. Well, actually, no. We need to mention Dordovic. Um,
Oh, that was
yeah.
ridiculous.
So for those of you who didn't watch in the third quarter, um, Dordovic's cutting. I think it was pretty late in the shot clock. Tucker, or Trainer rather, is kind of bodying him up from the side, from behind. He shoots kind of pushed by Trainer, kind of falling down. Makes solid contact with Van Raphorst's shoulder, but
Yeah.
Raphorst is really just kind of standing there. Like he hedged a little bit, but didn't go, like was not sliding like someone like Garrett Epple would.
I think that Van Raphorst was going out towards him,
Yeah,
but he and was like going to hit him or check him, but when he saw Trainer push him, it seemed like he tried to hold up because instead of fully extending, it was just kind of one of those awkward
yeah.
shrugs and like was like, oops, like I don't want to hit this guy because he's falling in front of me, but I've already started my forward movement, and yeah, they kind of had to call a penalty there on him because I didn't like the call, but technically there was helmet to helmet contact and sort of a all gushing blood. Like you can't do
Yeah.
nothing.
I mean,
I
it's
wish you
those,
could, but in 2024 you have to do something.
yeah, it's one of those unfortunate calls where he gets penalized basically for the attacking player kind of falling over as he's making contact.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean the clip of Dordovic getting up with really blood gushing down his chin from his mouth. It seemed like
Yeah.
I don't know if he lost a tooth or if he just cut. I mean, if he wouldn't have broken his nose. It was definitely something in his mouth.
I think
Um,
they're talking about his jaw
yeah, he
on the
definitely.
broadcast.
I would not be surprised to find out he lost one or more teeth.
They
Um,
definitely mentioned dental work as
yeah.
well on the broadcast.
And then obviously with any kind of head injury, you got to look at a potential concussion as well. So Dordovic went out, um, I think via ambulance. He walked to the ambulance and then got
I
taken
think
away.
so. Yeah.
So
Obviously did
he
not return.
no did not. Um, which it's kind of interesting. It's 2 games now where a prominent player for the opposition has been injured in a game against the Cannons. Not intentional, like by any stretch of the imagination, in either instance, but just really unfortunate. Obviously hope Dordovic's okay. That whatever it is, it's fixed. I know Jesse Bernhardt for the Outlaws is out again this week. I don't think any more details have been provided other than shoulder injury.
Mm.
But that you know Dordovic has been the engine we've seen the last 3 weeks that he's been back. That the Whips offenses look very different, and I think it was a factor in why they only scored 2 goals in the second half. Obviously, want to give Colin Kirst a lot of credit too. Um, But yeah, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that happened. Um, and probably change the tilt of the game a little bit just because he'd been such an engine for them offensively. Um,
That definitely, I think, Kurst has shown all season how he's just so good in the second half and the defense in general making their second half adjustments. So that definitely, I think, what I am inclined to say that is the main reason why
yeah,
the Cannons were able to come back and why the Whipsnakes were held scoreless for so long because the Cannons have just done that to everyone basically this season. However, Tucker Dordovic going down like that, I think, does also affect the psyche of the
definitely.
Whipsnakes and both the psyche and also of their actual offense, just having him not in it. I mean, we've seen the difference that he's made since he came back a few weeks ago. So that definitely, while you don't want to see that happen, was beneficial for the Cannons.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's another kind of odd incident after the game where Jake Bernhardt, who did not dress for the Whipsnakes, but or did not dress for the Whipsnakes against the Cannons, but did dress the day prior, so was on the sideline, got into some kind of shouting match, maybe a little pushing, a little shoving, with a few people on the Cannons bench. The broadcast didn't have a great view of it, and it was after the game, so they were done. They were cutting away pretty
Yeah.
soon. Um, uh, you know, Obviously your mind first goes to, was that related to the Cannons injuring his brother the week before? Um, Maybe something was said just right in that moment. I don't know. Was interesting. I didn't see any punches, so I don't expect any supplemental discipline to come out of that, but it was interesting to mention nonetheless. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, and then I think that's all we got for this game. So we've got a few minutes left here. We can just briefly mention what happened in the other games this weekend. So the Owls on a bye, so they, with the Cannons losing, obviously stay atop the East. The Whips with this win secure their playoff spot, as we mentioned earlier. The Atlas, or sorry, the Water Dogs with their loss to the Whips the Chaos win and with the Outlaws win, are eliminated from the playoffs. So,
Dilly
um,
dilly.
yep, the Bill Tierney era in Philadelphia not working out. Excuse me, not working out as planned. Would love to talk to some Philly fans, see if they want Andy Copeland to come back.
I'm
I guess
sure they do.
yeah. And then I kind of spoiled half of it, but the first game uh of Sunday was a real nail biter back and forth between the Chaos and Archers. Chaos just seemed to have the Archers number. They wound up winning 15-14. Blaze Reardon scores the first goal of the game, which was awesome. Really end to end, like makes a save, just bolts up field, and the defense is big up until it's too late. And then also makes this 1,000th save, as you mentioned. And then um, day one, that Water Dogs loss, I mean, brutal. They go down 11-0. They didn't score until like a few minutes into the third quarter. Uh, just painful, honestly.
I was watching most of that game yesterday and was honestly questioning if we were going to see a shutout in professional
Yeah,
lacrosse,
I was too. And I think it's natural to kind of take your foot off the gas, and it's probably a little bit of what happened to the Whips. I'm sure they deny it, but like,
especially knowing that they had the second game coming up. I
yeah,
wouldn't surprise me if they started conserving.
yeah, like especially if you had a bigger roster and you could like, put your backups in the way you can in like college sports.
Hmm.
Um, so that was, I mean, that was wild. 12-6, I think was the final, which does not like the game was not that close.
No.
Um,
And that doesn't sound that close either,
no.
but it was even less close.
Yeah. And then in an even less close game than that, the Denver Outlaws chopped down the forest of the California Redwoods. Um, it was, I think, 8-1 at the end of the first quarter. Final score was 18-5. And this, I think, is the first time this happened for the PLL, where about two minutes and change into the fourth quarter, there's a weather delay because of lightning in the area. We saw obviously a lot of weather stuff this weekend. Um, Delayed long enough is PLL policy if there's more than 7 minutes, or so I think more than 5 minutes played in the third quarter, they can call the game. They don't have to resume it. And I think I speak probably for Redwoods fans for sure, and for neutral fans like myself. We didn't need the last 9 minutes and change of that game. It was painful. We might have seen. I know they mentioned the biggest margin of victory in the PLO is 18. That was the Archers beating the Atlas 19-7. Sorry, 25-7 in the in 2019. We might have seen a challenge for that. The Redwoods had closed it a little bit, but man, that it's another game that's like, how the hell did the Cannons lose to that team? They are
The
just,
Redwoods just have the Cannons number. I don't
yeah,
get it.
they do. There's these weird relationships. Yeah, we see with the Chaos and Archers, with the Redwoods and Cannons. The Chaos and Water Dogs. The Water Dogs, for whatever reason, seem to beat them. But yeah, so we've got the Atlas still up top, the Cannons still in second for now. Um, the Whipsnakes now in third, I guess, at 5-4. The Archers and Outlaws at 4-3.
Hmm.
That's very interesting. The Archers hold on the West seem pretty secure now, not so much. Then we got the Chaos at 4-4, and the Redwoods last in the West at 2-6. The Dogs at 1-7 and officially eliminated. I feel pretty confident in saying the Redwoods are going to be eliminated as well. Um, I can't envision this team winning like both of their remaining two games,
Probably
regardless of
not.
opponent, unless it's the Water Dogs both times, and it's not. Um, so that's not the week we wanted in Maryland. But congrats to that Baltimore crowd. Obviously, a crazy lacrosse market. A bit
Mhm.
maligned by weather, but I'm sure they enjoyed it nonetheless. The Cannons are off next week for the Denver homecoming, which I think, Jack, you and I both feel that's one of the ones we were looking forward to the most. So,
Yeah, I'm conflicted only in that when I saw the schedule, like the actual matchups come out, I was really bummed that this was the Cannons bye week because I was excited to see Denver. But I guess the nice part is that, well, I guess we could have played like not the Outlaws, and then it would have been great because you get to see
Yeah.
Denver and the Cannons. But like, I can kind of be a neutral observer and just enjoy the Outlaws homecoming without my Cannons emotions getting in the way.
Yeah, I think it'll be nice to be kind of a neutral fan for that because we had Max on for the Cannons versus Outlaws. Um,
Mhm.
he's a guy that we came to be good friends with during Champ Series, and we love rooting for the Outlaws when they're not playing the Cannons. So it'll be nice to be a neutral fan, especially seeing the Cannons. Their first game, or sorry, the Outlaws' first game is against the Whipsnakes. We definitely are rooting for the Outlaws in that one.
Yep.
Um, and then their second game of the weekend is against the Chaos, which will have a lot of big playoff implications as far as seeding goes, at least in Champ Series. So I'm sure that'll be a very intense matchup from that
Yeah.
standpoint. We'll come back to you with a little bit more detailed preview, but um, they got such a passionate fan base. Max that we had on has revealed that the Rough Riders leadership has got some great stuff planned for that. I think you'll definitely find them on the broadcast, assuming you're not going to be there in Denver. We cannot
If
wait.
you're there in Denver, any of you listening, you will definitely
Yeah.
find them.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I cannot wait. Yeah, I am glad. I kind of feel that way, or kind of feel this way when I'm watching college lacrosse, that I don't have a very strong team affiliation.
Hmm.
I was definitely rooting for Notre Dame to win their first championship a couple years ago, but beyond that, I really got nothing. So I kind of feel that way about Denver this upcoming weekend, just kind of rooting for the home team. Kind of nice not to have a dog in the fight, metaphorically speaking. Water Dogs also don't have a dog in the fight because they're eliminated from the playoffs. I will never not take a shot at them.
What is it not funny to make fun of Philadelphia?
Never. I mean, probably if you're like a British soldier in 1780, and that's about the only time. Um,
Well, good thing that's not us.
nope, not us. Could never be us. Although this is not a great
Literally.
shirt to be wearing, making a joke about the British in the Revolutionary War. I'm wearing a red
We
cannon
won.
for anyone. Yeah, that's true. Um, all right. I think that's a good way
Anyways,
to wrap it up. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so no Cannons games next week. We'll hopefully be back for your I mean, we'll be back either way. Hopefully we'll be back with a guest. Still TBD. We'll see you on Thursday. And until then, go Cannons.
Go Cannons.
Boom.
Boom.